I guess at that time, that's what we did. Everybody, as men, we were supposed to go, as adults, we were supposed to be in the service. That was part of our duty, and we all accepted the fact that we'd sooner or later end up there, and I'm just talking for myself basically, but I had no intentions of, going to Canada or anything. I knew sooner or later I would go, and I was fine with that. And I guess what sped it up a little bit was we had a man in town here at the time. It was a classmate of mine, Larry Borschel, and he went in the Marine Corps. He was sent to Vietnam, and he was like a brother to me. And I found out when I was in basic training that he was killed over there, and I was so resentful that I knew right then what I was going to do. So right out of basic training, I volunteered to go over. It was more like, I'm going to get even, If you got drafted, and more so than not, if you got drafted for a 2-year stint, you probably was going to go into the infantry. At the time, I was looking at enlisting when I got my draft notice, and I called my enlistment officer and I said, "What do I do with that?" And he said, "Throw it in the river." So I basically did. Took my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. It probably wasn't the first time I really was away from home, I would say, yes. I was excited, believe it or not.
Okay.
I mean, I was ready to go. Before we landed, we flew in a DC-8, which is a big plane, and it was noisy, and I can remember flying over Vietnam and the pilot saying something, look outside, it's lit up, and you could just see artillery going off, you could see bombs going off, you could see tracer bullets, and all of a sudden, you're in a different attitude, whole different state of mind, you might say, and you start getting a little nervous, and then, we landed at Consonant Air Base and got off the plane, and they rushed us to the area where they tell you what's going on, basically, they have these sergeants come out and tell you what to expect, so you haul your 100-pound duffel bag and everything else you got along with you and haul out there, and it's the middle of the night and you're sitting there and he's telling you, first thing he says to us, he says, "Well, I don't want to scare you, but," he says, "I am bandaged, and you probably want to know why I'm bandaged up." And he says, "Well, what happened?" He says, "Night before last we got hit here. We got mortared, and I got fragments." He says, "So I'm going to tell you right now, if we get hit tonight, this is where you go." So he pointed to a place where we should be going, because this time we hadn't gotten our rifles, we hadn't gotten any our gear yet. All we had was our duffel bags. So you take a bunch of 19-year-old kids and they start telling you that, and you get kind of scared, Like, I was stationed 300 miles north of Saigon. That's where my outfit was, with 30th Artillery. And we were so we took C-130s. They loaded us up in these big cargo planes and shipped us up there to Quinh Nhon, South Vietnam. And that's where the 30th Artillery was, so that's where we went. And I can remember we got off the air base there in Quinh Nhon. We took a deuce and a half, which is a big truck. Used to open on the back. Everybody got in there and went to that outfit. And I remember we went in through Quinyon there, and I can remember seeing it looked like an old Army school bus, what it looked like. And the first thing I noticed was there were just arms and legs coming out of the bus. And I said to the sergeant, I said, well, what's going on there? And he says, well, we have a medevac hospital here in Quinyon. He said there were probably soldiers that probably didn't make it. And it looked like they were in sardine cans in a bus. And it was really spooky at that time, you know, just seeing that. I think, God, what did I do to get me, why did I do this, And so that made a big impression on us, because I knew I still had 11, 12 miles out in the sticks to ride yet, And I thought, man, we're wide open targets here, But, we made it through there and got out to our camp all right and everything. So a lot of times you don't have much reaction time. It's almost instantaneous what you're going to do. I mean, you just know at the time. You see something that's not supposed to be there. You don't have time to say, okay, I'll wait till he shoots at me, or whatever. I mean, your reaction time is take him out. Highway 1 went along the coast on the South China Sea coast there, and a lot of times we'd take convoys and run supplies up the front lines, which would be quite a little jaunt. And you never knew what you were going to run into. And a lot of times we'd go up there. There was times we went up there, just two of us would go up there with a whole truckload full of equipment. And they'd always say, get back before night, because one thing during the day, you'd see a lot of farmers in the fields and everything. But at night, these same farmers are out there doing their crops and everything. At night, they're VC. They throw their tools down, they grab their weapons, and they fight the Americans. So you never knew what was going to happen. The only ones that you could probably really tell was the NVA, which is the Republic of Vietnam trained soldiers. They wore uniforms. But the Vietnamese, the VC didn't. The Viet Cong didn't. They blended right in. And so you just didn't know. You didn't know who was the enemy, who wasn't, and they all looked the same, So you had to be very cautious. You didn't know what to expect. It was scary, it was dark, you could hear rounds going off, you hear artillery going off, and you didn't know what to expect, so you might say you were frightened, yes. I'd say most of them would agree to that. Scared even at times, Well, you always had a little fear in the background, because you never knew. You never knew when a mortar round was going to come in. So we were probably more relaxed after a while, but you still was cautious because you just never knew. Basically, my original job is what I did was we did the payroll. We were out in the middle of the sticks, we lived in tents, and we did the payroll. And what that means is we did the allotments. So we had in the 30th Artillery, we had 5 divisions of the 30th Artillery. And we did the payroll for all of them. And what we did is we typed up their allotments. And then once a month we'd take a chopper out and fly up to the front lines and visit every soldier. And if they had any changes in their money they sent home or dependents, or if someone died or whatever, we had to change that. But we had to get out on the front lines to do that. They wouldn't come to us. We went to them. And as I said, we had 5 divisions, and they were scattered from south of the DMZ all the way down south of Saigon. So it was quite a little trip that you'd have to take in the chopper, which you're always flying over enemy anyway, so you never know what's going to happen there either. And it's wide open. So that was my main job. But then You know, it was a small company, you know, and they were short-handed. If they were short-handed on running convoy or running supplies to these other outfits, we volunteered to do it, you know. Yes, well, I always, yeah, I knew it'd be safer, but, you know, I was a young kid. I was kind of wild, I guess you might say at that time, and I liked the excitement. It was just the excitement of being a young kid, you know, and I can't say I like being shot at, but I like the tenseness, you know, of not knowing. It was exciting as long as nobody got hurt. Run. Well, you leave early in the morning, have to be back at night, so, you know, a rough road, so, you know, you might think 30, 40 miles, yeah, which is a long way on a old beat up mine road. That was every night.
Every night, and what was that like?
You were 2 hours on, 4 hours off. So you just sit behind a 60 caliber and just watch over the perimeter. And we had quite a few bunkers sitting around. It was a pretty good sized camp, so we had quite a few bunkers. It wasn't just 4 people on guard duty. We had them all the way around the camp, but we all had bunkers below the ground with 60 caliber machine guns, and we just maintained what was going on, just check and make sure there wasn't anybody crawling through our Constantine wire trying to get up and do damage to our people, you know. We didn't have to wait. I mean, if we thought something wasn't right, it was our option to shoot or not shoot. I look back on it now, and I think, you know, what would I do now if I had to do something like that, you know? And I can honestly say I'd go back and do it again.
You would go back to Vietnam if your country called?
If I had to, yes, I would.
Okay.
Or wherever. No. That was just going outside the perimeter, and that means outside the gates, outside the fence where you have the Constantine wire. You know, you got a perimeter out here, and then you got Constantine wire. It's like barbed wire and stuff all the way around. And then you got mines and stuff set so far out. And that's to keep the enemy from coming in without setting something off, so we knew they were coming in. So every day then we'd go out past that to make sure there wasn't anything going on beyond that, you know. We've seen things that were suspicious that we'd probably just go back and tell the commanding officer about, and then he'd take it from there. I guess one of the most memorable situations that really happened, it really probably got me the most, is I had a real good friend in B Battery, the 30th Artillery, and he was a Ford observer. He was a good friend of mine, and he was out, and I don't know if you understand what a Ford observer is. He goes out and he finds the enemy, and then he calls in airstrikes and calls in artillery strikes, which as an artillery outfit, that's what we do, you know. He'd give the coordinates and they could fire up on the enemy. Well, he was out doing this and he caught a trip mine, and it blew both his legs off. And he didn't die right away. He was able to call in the airstrikes and artillery, call that in, give coordinates, and they were able to wipe out the enemy before he died. And it really stuck with me, you know, and even today it does, you know. And I wasn't with him, but it happened in the outfit that I was in, and you know, it always stuck with me. One other thing that probably stuck in my mind is I was in a Huey, and we got in and we were supposed to take the payroll up to the 101st Airborne, which we supported. And I remember we got on the Huey, and they're open on the sides. You got gunners on the sides, so we sat with the gunners, you know, wide open. And you had these goofy little seat belts, and I couldn't get mine to work. And one of the signals, you know, when the pilot looked back, I didn't know this at the time, and you raised your hand like that, he thought, okay, ready to take off. Well, I didn't know that. I hung my finger up like that, and he took off. And what I was trying to tell him is, don't go yet, I haven't got belted in. So we take off, and we're flying, you know, flying patrol down along the treetops, and I ain't belted in, and we're flying at an angle. And I'm going to fall out of this chopper. I know I am. And I don't know what made me look up. I looked up, and I seen a bullet hole in the top of the chopper, and I stuck my little finger in that hole, and that's the only thing that kept me from falling out of that chopper. I was scared to death. And I remember that to this day. I had nightmares about it, you know. But, you know, that was memorable. But it turned out good. I can't remember much we do for Christmas, you know. You might get a little different meal besides sea rations or something, you know. You might be able to steal a bottle of booze from the officers and drink that. If you're back at base camp, they had old outhouses with old outhouses with cans in them, you know, kind of like the ones they got today, you know, or they're wooden. They've got them set around. Showers, you know, probably a bucket of water, big tank, pull the rope, get a little water on you, soap up, and you're done. You know, that's showers we had, you know, nothing fancy. Terrible food in a can, we call it. You know, you get all kinds of different food. Spaghetti. We used to start a fire and put them over the fire and heat them up. They'd taste a little better, but they weren't good. I mean, sea rations back there, you know, they've probably been in that can for 40 years. I did. I still had 18 months left of my 3 years enlistment. I did. So I came back, and they put me down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I hated it down there. You know, they spend a year over there, and you know, they're pretty lax, and you know, the clothes you wear, and you don't have to shine your boots, you don't have to shave, you know, it's pretty rough. So when they sent me down there, and you had to salute all your officers, and you had to shine your boots, and start your fatigues, and just, it was a lot of BS. And I couldn't handle it. It was just too much for me. So I went up to the commanding officer and I says, I got to get out of here. What can I do to get out of here? He said, you can go back over. I said, where do I sign? No, I knew if I'd stayed down there, I probably would have got court-martialed. Because I just couldn't take being told what to do after a year over there. And, you know, things I thought were stupid to do, you know. So I didn't, I had to get out of there one way or another, so that was the only way to get out, so I said, okay. Yeah, it was just the things you went through, you know, and the things you saw, and, you know, it's very stressful. And yeah, you know, it took a long time for, you know, it's hard for, you know, it's different. The Vietnam War is a lot different than it is now, because now you come back and you got PTSD, and they've got people there to help you. They know that, you know, what it is, how they can help you. Back then, you didn't tell anybody you had problems, because if you had a mental problem, everybody looked at you like he's a nutcase, you know. So most of us would never say nothing, and it was just the opposite back then. See, so that's why, you know, you see so many Vietnam veterans that never got any help until it was too late. You know, I mean, I went years and years without getting any help. When I went back over in 1968, I was right in the middle of the Tet Offensive. So where I was at is where I was stationed was in Pleiku, and that's right along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So it came right down through there. So the skies were lit up every night, you know. And so we were on, you know, no matter where you were on alert all times. Because even if you were back in the base camp, you didn't have a front or rear line in Vietnam. You know, it was all open. You know, they could pop mortars into anywhere you were at, and our camp got hit quite a bit because we had ammo dumps there, and they always wanted to get the ammo dumps. So, you know, it was always kind of scary. We took allotments out there. That's the paperwork that they had to fill out. Every individual soldier had to fill out. And every month we had to do that because they had to, you know, they may want to change, they might want to take less money out. So you get paid while you're over there. And the rest you send home or send somewhere else. Well, they may want to go on R&R. Well, they may want to have less money taken out or sent home because they want it for R&R. So we'd have to go out there and have them make out this paperwork in the field and make all those changes. Or if they want to send it somewhere else, or maybe someone died, you know. We had to get all that information. But there again, we had to go to them. I'd say the second tour was a little more stressful, just for the simple reasons that no matter where you were at, you weren't safe, because they could sit outside the perimeter, pop in mortars, and nothing you could do about it, you know. We were a service company, and we had 3 batteries that were artillery batteries, and you know they were the ones that went out and protected the infantry, you know, as far as artillery call in. So, but yeah, it really wasn't safe anywhere you were at, you know, especially during Tet. I mean, they were all over Vietnam during Tet, and there was nothing we could do about it. I look back at it and I think, you know, what the hell are we doing over here? You know, we're a big United States. We can't even handle Vietnamese. I mean, we're not winning this war. Ain't none of us be. The soldiers, you know, they were so down because they didn't understand what the hell we were doing there. The government was not doing what they should have been doing. And so everybody was down, they were depressed. Half the unit was smoking pot, smoking dope, they just didn't care. Well, because when you're smoking dope and taking opium and that kind of things, you're in a different world. So you really don't care what's going on. And it was an out for them. You know, I can't say, you know, I'd say most everybody is, in my outfit anyway, probably at least smoke pot, if not more. You know, grew wild. First tour, I went to Bangkok, Thailand. And that's where those pictures of those snakes were in Bangkok. Second tour, I went to Hong Kong. You take R&R and I think it's about like a 5-day, I can't remember, 5-6 days flight of these. Take a cargo plane, they fly you. There's numerous places you could have went. You could have went to the Philippines, you could have went to Australia, you could have come back to Hawaii if you were married and see your wife. But, you had your choice if they had the allocations to go. And I just chose Bangkok. And, you just go over there and whoop it up and have a good time, forget about everything. And you could because you drank all the time. I mean, that's all you did, you drink. Forget about it. I chose it. I chose that path. So, I got nobody else to blame but myself, and I have no regrets for what I did, I came back 1968. I flew into Fort Lewis, Washington. I can remember all it does is rain up there. And I can remember before we got on the plane to head back from Vietnam, it was like a 24-hour flight. And the commanding officer says, I'm going to tell you one thing. He says, when you get to that airport, you get off that plane, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to run, not walk. You run to that bathroom and get that uniform off. And because we'd heard what was going on back here, the Jane Fonda type thing and the protest, and they didn't like anybody in uniform. We're baby killers, So that's the first thing I remember doing. I ran through that airport, Fort Lewis, and got that uniform off. Couldn't even be proud to wear it. Because people, your life wasn't even safe at home. It was really sad that people were that way, Here we thought we'd done something for our country, and then to come back and fight for our lives back here. You couldn't talk about it, you couldn't wear your uniform, you couldn't be proud of what you did, because who knows what they do to you. And I just never talked about it for, 15 years probably. I just never brought it up, wouldn't talk about it, But it was sad. I'm glad to see now that soldiers come home and they celebrate. I mean, that makes me feel good. I'm glad that's what they should have been doing. And yeah, we weren't thanked, We were just, oh, you were one of them guys, And it was, and I can remember Jane Fonda, she was sitting on this North Vietnamese tank protesting the war. And it's a good thing that she wasn't anywhere around my outfit, because she wouldn't have made it. I guarantee it. It's sad, that they do that. But, you may not like what we do, but I mean, that's what we did. We didn't want communism coming through. And to today, we're doing the same thing. We're fighting because of communism, But for those people to protest that violently against us, it wasn't our fault. But, it's as I say, I've been out for 40 years. And even to this day, I've had guys and gals come up to me. Most of them have never been in the service. And they'll come up, even today, and say, shake my hand and say thank you. And, that really means something. It really does. It just makes you feel good, even after all these years. We hated them. We had no love for the Vietnamese people. They used us. That's what most of us felt. We had no love whatsoever for them. We had the South Vietnamese Army We did have a one outfit with us, the Arvins of South Vietnamese. They were good people. I mean, as far as the South Vietnamese soldiers, they were good people, good soldiers. The farmers, the VC that dress at night as VC and the day through the farmers, we hated all of them people. Just despise them. Just didn't shoot them, just look at them. You know, that was their feeling, you know. But as far as having friends, no, we didn't. Didn't care what nationality there was, you know, but, you know, they were American soldiers. It was almost too late. They should have had them out there a long time before that, you know. And how we got them out of there without getting half of them killed, I don't know. But that was a poor job of planning, the way I thought of it. I really have no desire to go back. You know, there's nothing there that I want to relive. You know, it's taken me 40 years to try to get rid of all that, and I really don't want to bring it back up. I still remember, but I don't have the nightmares. I used to get nightmares for 20 years, maybe longer. I'd have nightmares, anxiety attacks. But no, I'd say, I'm on some medications for that, but I'd say I'm pretty much over that now. I can sit down and watch a Vietnam movie, you know, which now to me is more historical to me because some of those places I've been and I can relate to where they're at. And because the media has blown that Vietnam War clear out of proportion. You don't understand, the people back here didn't understand what was really going on. The media just blew it out. They took the worst part, sent it back, said this is what's going on. That wasn't the whole story. They don't understand when a Vietnamese kid is old enough to pick up a rifle. He does, and he uses it. So yeah, there was a lot of young kids killed, but they were also shooting back at you. I'd write letters home, and they'd write letters back saying, you know, this is all over TV, and this is, you know, what's going on, you know, and I'm thinking, that ain't really what's going on. But you get a real close knitness. I feel bad because I've only been able to get a hold of one friend of mine from the first tour that I have contact with. The rest of them I haven't been able to find. But, and it's too bad. I really want, you know, because they make these reunions you go to, you know, and I just can't get enough rounded up to go to a reunion, you know. My honest opinion is we're going to get ourselves right back into where we were. We haven't learned anything. You know, we're going in there and not getting the job done. We're losing our men. There's too much politics involved, you know. And all we're going to do is we're going to make our debt much higher because we're in all these conflicts. It's like we got to protect the world, you know, and we're not getting anything done. I mean, look at Iraq. It's going back the way it was. Look at Vietnam. It's back the way it was. I agreed with the war back then. Once I got out, I can honestly say we didn't win that war. We wasted a lot of men for no reason. You know, and I just hope that in today's world that we don't make the same mistake again and again.